Hi there, my name is Kaylee,
My name is Shay.
and we're tackling some big debt
In the Big Apple.
and trying to become financially independent doing it.
Yeah.
This, I believe, is going to be the first of a long series. I don't know what to call it yet, but it's all around financial independence. So, I think first and foremost, financial independence, also known as FIRE,
Mm-hmm.
financial independence, retire early.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
It is a holistic financial philosophy that involves maximizing your savings rates and creating streams of passive income, whether it be through brokerage accounts or through real estate or whatever, so that you can retire early and become able to sustain your lifestyle without a need for a job. Did I do good?
I made Shay do it because she's the one who has done the least nerdy research on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So the idea of financial independence is that you have enough money saved up or coming in some way where you are not tied to traditional employment. So if I didn't want to work a 9-to-5 job, I wouldn't have to because we'd have enough saved up that our investments, real estate, whatever, had enough coming in that I don't need to do that. Yeah, so I have some much better recommendations than us. For me, my big mind opener, I'd say, to dig into what this is. If all of these things speak to you as we're talking throughout the rest of this conversation, I would recommend Choose FI. They have a great podcast. They have lots of resources online. They are much better at explaining all of this than I am. I'm just going to start with this and say, listen, what we are going to say is not the be-all, end-all. We are not experts. We're just people.
It pertains to our journey and our journey only.
Yes. So I would recommend, if that you find this very interesting, go to choosefi.com. Here, I'll just choosefi.com. Check that out. They also have this, I'm in your way, Financial Independence 101. We'll link this in the description box below. It's just a training course to teach you about all the tenets of FI and the ways you can do it and all the in-depth details about shaping your financial future and all those things. It's a free course. I did it kind of late. I already knew a lot of the stuff, but if you're new to this and you're wanting to learn, this is a kind of kitschy language here, but this has really, really changed the way that I look at my finances and my future. So recommend it. So how did we find FIRE? I will go first because I feel like I know how you found it.
Yes.
So my whole financial journey kind of started back in high school. Everyone's financial journey starts when they're born. But so my family was not well off, to put it very, very mildly, when I was a child. WIC, food stamps, the whole thing. We did not have a lot of money at our disposal. My parents got divorced when I was 5. So they were both kind of doing their own thing. Single parents, kind of. It's just, life was not cheap. I grew up in California. And there was never, ever a point in my life where I thought there was a college fund. I knew that money was going to be a concern my whole life, basically. So my senior year of high school, I took an economics class taught by a football coach, as you do in high school, it seems. And so the entirety of this class that I took was, we'd come into class and he'd turn on the Dave Ramsey financial piece for high school students. And that would be our entire class. We'd fill out a little worksheet and then we'd go on our way. There's no homework, nothing. It was just, he was working on plays in his playbook, and we were, watching Dave Ramsey. And that really opened my mind because there's a whole section on college and how to pay for college and student loans and how to live on a budget and all those things. And I, was a senior in high school. I was not employed. I didn't get a driver's license until I was 18. I didn't have anything to my name, but that really got my mind turning on, if I want college to happen for me and if I want an adult life to happen for me and I had this drive to kind of level up the life that I had had up until that point. I was really interested in all that. So then as I graduated high school, I got my first job. I started living on a spreadsheet budget that I made myself. I was really bad at it. super bad at it. I wrote it all out at the beginning of the week, and then my next paycheck came and I wrote down what had happened, and I'd be like, that wasn't what I wrote down at all. I just didn't stick to it very well. And so then I kind of refound Dave Ramsey again as an adult. I had a little bit of credit card debt. I had a little bit of student loan debt. I was still in college, but I couldn't go to college if I didn't take student loans because there was no money from my parents.
Mm-hmm.
I would apply for a few scholarships here and there. It just wasn't like, there just wasn't a lot happening. I was going to a state school. It didn't cost a lot. There's a little bit of student loans. I was working full time, paying what I could, but I was really on my own trying to figure all this stuff out. So I had made a few bad choices, but Dave Ramsey kept the bad choices to student loans specifically. So I paid off credit card debt after I was I went to grad school. I paid off all my credit card debt. I kind of got my life figured out aside from the student loans. I had a ton of student loans. I got a master's degree. And I was like, this Dave Ramsey stuff, it talks a lot about, credit card debt and getting into car debt and all these things that just didn't really feel applicable to me. So I was looking for like the next thing, I'm going to be paying off student loans for a long time. I want to do that. But also, Dave Ramsey, more power to him. He's helped a lot of people and like his vibe isn't my vibe, And so I was looking for like the next thing, and I was in a bunch of Facebook groups and Reddit communities, and I'm like, people talk about all the time, like, okay, like what's a Dave Ramsey-esque, but not that. And that's kind of where I got pointed to Choose FI and the podcast and all those things. I started listening a little bit when I graduated with my master's program and all that. And it just really, it lit me the fuck up. I'm going to say it. I was listening to it, and I had just graduated with my master's, and I didn't know what my next thing was going to be. And I was thinking I was going to go be a theater director in New York City, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and everything was kind of all over the place. And I started listening to the podcast, and I was like, oh, I can start saving now. I can start paying off my loans now. Because in my mind, when I was graduating school, I was like, well, I have to wait till I'm rich. I won't be able to afford paying loans or anything because I'm not rich. And then I started listening to the podcast, and they're talking to people who, are also not rich, who never got to be rich and still have managed to be financially independent just because the math. So I was listening to that. COVID happened. I got heavy into it, started working a corporate job. And now it's kind of now. And we're still on this journey. It's a long story, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we're at in this moment, where I discovered it a few years ago. I've been working through it. Life is still lifing and progress is still progressing. How about you?
Well, if we're going to do our whole life story, I think mine is probably a little bit shorter. I grew up...
You calling me old?
Huh?
You calling me old?
No, just that mine has less twists and turns, I would say. I grew up in a household that was different from Kaylee's for sure, but it left me with a lot of the same habits and just like mindsets about money, where my parents, they are still married and they're still happily married, and we've been living in the same house for, like over 2 decades now.
That's where we got married.
Yes, that is where we got married, is at my parents' house. And they, always had a side hustle, always had like something else going on. My mother has run her own businesses for like the past decade. And they have a different philosophy with money, where they spend it like money is no object until there is nothing left in their bank accounts.
And then it becomes a big object.
And we don't spend any money until it's like, that was kind of the
like an up and down
cyclical thing that would happen with money in my household when I was a kid. So I became really hypervigilant about money from a young age, but not in a long-term thinking kind of way, because I'm 26, so I'm still quite young. So I was always thinking about like right now. Can I finish my story?
Sorry.
So, it was impressed upon me from probably the time I was like 13, that if I wanted to go to school, I would have a set amount of money that I would, have as help from my parents every year. And anything beyond that, I would have to figure out myself. So I was like, okay, wherever I go, I have to get a full scholarship. And so I made that happen for myself because I was very lucky. I had, SAT tutors and people who were willing to read and look over my essays and like really like work very hard on my college applications with me. And that ended up, paying off in a big way because I did get a full academic scholarship to a state school, but still, it was one less thing that I had to pay for. And so I still had to take out, a couple $1,000s in student loans just to make sure that I could live on campus for my senior year. And then I paid it off right away because I graduated into COVID. So I took my stimulus check and I used it to pay off all my student loans. And that was kind of my first and only experience with debt. I was kind of at a point in life where I didn't have any debt to worry about. So I wasn't thinking holistically about my finances. And I was also still kind of figuring out what I wanted to do with the rest of my 20s. Did I want to go to get a master's get a master's degree? Did I want to, move to the city and start pursuing acting right away? Because that's my career path is I'm an actor. My hypervigilance around money kind of led me to a YouTube channel called The Financial Diet. And that was my first experience hearing the term FIRE. Was in reference to, it was kind of brought up in connection with Dave Ramsey's, whole philosophy about money. So the preconceived notion that I had about FIRE and the FIRE community is that it was overly restrictive, not built for modern times, and not built for people who weren't single men.
Is that what she said, or is that what you heard?
That was the vibe that I got. It wasn't necessarily what she said, but based on the other names that I heard in association with it and the people that I saw commenting on those videos, I was like, oh, this is, like the keto diet of the financial world. Like I didn't want anything to do with it because I just didn't like the vibes. And then when I met Kaye, she, had been through the master's program and had been living on her own for a while, and she already had her mindset on the future in a way that I just didn't, because I had been living on my own for less than a year. I had been out of school for barely 3, so I wasn't thinking long term at that point in my life. And I met Kaye, and she absolutely was. And then I kind of got reintroduced to a much more sustainable version of the FIRE movement than I had realized had ever existed. And we knew we were going to get married pretty much right away, so it was kind of like a hop on the train and see where this goes kind of scenario.
The FIRE train.
Yeah. So that's how I learned about it.
And then we got married, and now we're here.
Yeah.
Not right away. We did know each other for a little while before we got married. I'd like to clarify that point. So here we are. Where are we? Let's discuss that. We budget out our lives pretty intensely. This is YNAB, the budgeting system. If you've never seen it, we're big fans. So this is kind of how we first started our financial life together. So we started budgeting really closely, paying attention to what we were spending. I still have crazy student loans, so figuring out how we can pay those down.
Yes, that is the big debt part of the big debt in Big Apple.
Big debt in Big Apple. There is big debt. So
yes.
We, first, in order to pursue financial goals for the future, we had to get our present sorted. Yeah. So YNAB has played a big part in getting our now figured out. We know how much our life costs. We know how much we can afford to save. We know how much we're saving. And we know what we're saving for. I think that's also a big part of it, is making sure that our now is covered is what has made looking towards the future, I think, more sustainable for both of us.
Yeah.
I'd say Shay especially, because I could live on, sandwiches for every meal and just vibe for a while. And that's just not a life at all, let alone for my wife who loves doing things and being a person. Whereas I could just not be a person. I could just work all day and then I'd splurge eventually, but nothing crazy. Having a handle on our day-to-day life is what has allowed us then to move into the next phase, which is then working on long-term financial goals. So let's look at those. Okay, so first and foremost, our biggest priority in life right now is paying off my student loans. It is the only debt that we have.
Yep.
We use credit cards as tools. We don't carry debt on them. Shay doesn't have any student loan debt. We don't own anything because we live in New York City, and so we don't need to have a car, so we don't. We don't own our apartment. We wish, but we don't. So we're just focusing on the student loans. That is our aggressive Like, we throw so much money at the student loans. I think our bare minimum that we pay on the student loans every single month is $1,200. That is automatically happening in the background, and we're throwing all of our extra money. We decided on that. After we got married, we sat down, we had a conversation. I can link that conversation below. And we just realized that in order for us to get ahead in life, that is what we feel we need to do.
Yeah.
Some people may argue that mathematically it makes more sense to throw money in the stock market. The mathematics of it is only part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know the math on things, and also the student loans weigh on us pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I think me a lot more because they are my student loans.
Yes.
But it just, like, the emotional aspect of it is a huge part of it for me too. And the graduate student loans have like a 6-something% interest rate. So it's not like it's that much different than if we had the money in the stock market getting 7 or 8% anyway.
Yeah.
So we are throwing a ton of money at the student loans. That is not to say that we are not also saving towards the future.
It's just less.
It's just less than ideal state. So right now, the company that I work for provides a full 5% match of my salary into my 401k. So I'm putting 7% and they match 5%. I'm just at 7% because I changed it on a whim when I felt sad one day. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to do that again, but I don't feel like I need to reduce it. I'm just not going to keep upping it, you know?
When was that?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Like a year ago, longer, I don't know.
Oh.
So my 401k is at 7%. I get paid weekly. So every week, $140 goes into my 401k. My company matches up to the first 5%, so they put $100. So every week, $240 is going into my 401k. That rules.
Yes.
Big fan. Shay's Roth IRA.
I started because Kaylee told me to start one.
That's not, I mean, you were happy about it. You made it sound like I bossed you around.
No, you're not bossing me around. I just, to kind of drive home the point that I wasn't thinking long term even a little bit before I met Kaylee. And that there are reasonable reasons as to why, other than just you are a little bit older than me.
I am a little bit older than you, though. So we started Shay's Roth IRA. I don't think it's even a year old yet, in the last year.
No, it's almost 3 years old now.
3 years?
We started the account in June when we met.
Damn, I said, girl, get you a Roth IRA. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So we've been contributing. Oh, but the monthly contribution, I think, is what.
Yes.
We haven't been doing that.
Yeah, the account was open for a very long time, and
with very little money in it.
Yes.
And then when we combined finances right before we got married is when we started doing this monthly $75 a month.
Yes.
And then my Roth IRA, I contribute what I can. The average is out to about $10 a month. Mm-hmm. We'll discuss future plans for all this here in a second. So what we have right now in all those accounts is $65,114.35 as of yesterday. Our FI number, which is the number that you need to be able to withdraw 4% of your portfolio. Look up the 4% rule. We'll probably do a video on it at some point, but I don't want this to be an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
So withdrawing 4% of your portfolio is generally agreed upon as a safe withdrawal rate. Mm-hmm. And that means that you can live on that money in perpetuity because it grows on average 7%, blah, blah, blah. So our goal is $97,500 a year, which is about $6,500 a month, which is technically a little bit over what we're spending right now.
Yes.
But whatever. So that means that in order for us to retire early, we'd need just $2.5 million, which sounds absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. But when you think about the growth year over year, if we say we get an average of an 8% return, we're adding all that stuff that we just said is at $13,500 a year with my employee match and all that stuff, which means that we will hit this number when I am 63 years old, which you will notice is still before
standard retirement
age.
Yes.
Thank you. So that feels good.
Yeah.
To know that if we just keep doing what we're doing and make no changes at all, we will be able to afford retirement.
Yeah.
Which, I gotta say, I hope my family never finds this channel, because I feel like I've said this a couple times, but I just don't think that both of my parents are going to have that amount of money when it comes time for their retirement. Mm-hmm. Just because of the life that we had when I was younger. They did their best. I love them so much. And all of those things are true. It's very likely that my parents will have to work for longer than standard retirement age. And that's lame.
It will probably be true of my parents as well.
It will be true of your parents as well, because they're more independent business owner situations.
Yes.
So, you know, like our parents will probably not have the standard retirement of stop working and be retired.
Yeah.
And that's tough, you know. It means that also, and again, this is not a dig at them. I love both sets of our parents are wonderful people.
Yeah.
Did their best and are still doing their best and are great and support us in many, many ways. And it means that as we get older, we do have to stop and have conversations about like, okay, what if one of our parents needs help in retirement? Do we need to plan for that in our retirement?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, you know, another layer of thought. And we're not planning on having kids, which also means that there's no kids for us to mooch on. So we got to plan for our retirement because nobody's going to take care of us. These cats are not going to take care of us. This is the current state.
Yeah.
When we hit this number, I will be 63. Shay will be 58, which is not that much younger. But this is current state. This is assuming nothing ever changes about this number.
Yeah.
And by God, do we want that number to change?
Yes.
Okay?
Certainly.
So let's take a look at our plans for the future and what we'll be tracking in these videos moving forward.
Welcome to the dashboard.
One thing about me, I love a dashboard. I do. And I learned how to do something yesterday. You'll see. So as you just saw, these are our current balances. Over time, we'll be tracking these balances.
Yes.
Maybe I should put the student loan balance too. Well, no, I have that. Okay, anyway. So something you'll hear a lot in the FI community is, what is your savings rate?
Mm-hmm.
So your savings rate is, actually, you know what? Let's just show what we're calculating in our savings rate. So to show you what we're calculating as our savings rate, I just listened to a Choose FI podcast. I don't remember what number it is. I'm not going to look it up. I'm sorry. Where they talked about, you know, how do you calculate your savings rate? What do you include in it? How do you get a realistic number? Because I could do math in a different way and inflate this number and be like, yeah, my 50% savings rate because my company match. But the goal is to know where you are at holistically.
Yeah.
So the more realistically you calculate your savings rate, the better off you're going to be in the long run, because this is not like a pissing contest of who has the best savings rate. It's about you and your journey to getting to financial independence, if you so choose. What is in the top line of our savings rate is my 401k contributions, 401k match. I'm putting the student loan payments into my savings rate because to me, that is working towards financial independence. That is working towards our financial future. This is actively reducing an expense in our budget.
And increasing our net worth.
Yes. Roth IRA contributions. Long-term savings, which is referring to our savings account where we are saving to buy a house one day. It's not huge. We don't add a lot. It's just the interest, but whatever. And then there's a cash savings account through my company that I just also include. Again, not very much. And then in the bottom line is our overall pay, like the net take-home pay, because I don't want to count taxes and things in the savings, you know, not really in my control so much right now. My 401k contributions go down here, and the 401k match goes down here. And so the 401k contributions and match are considered in the denominator of the equation as well. This is just the recommended way to do the math. It's a little more conservative way to do the math, but because they're pre-tax contributions, they're part of your original income, it's a whole thing. Choose FI has an article about it on their website, and that's where I got this initial one. And then they also have some other recommendations about how you can get deep into this, like weighting certain pre-tax versus post-tax and all this stuff. And I was like, I can't.
Oh, goodness.
It felt like this is a more conservative way to measure it, and also accounts for this money being both income and retirement contributions. So I went with this way because I'm not that good at math, and I trust it, and this feels most holistic to me. So our current savings rate, 33.5%. This is good, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I would like it to be closer to 50, but I would say we have reached a point where our expenses are very comfortable for us. So the only way, I think, to raise the savings rate is to raise our income.
Yeah.
Which is what's going to happen. Shay has a job that is much more seasonal in her acting, and that's about to kick up in a big way. So our savings rate for the last quarter of the year
is always better.
It's going to be higher. And, you know, as merit raises increase, I finally, you know, we have hit an income level that allows us to live our lives in a comfortable and sustainable way. We don't spend extravagantly. We spend in a comfortable manner. And as our income increases, I don't see our expenses increasing that much.
No.
So our savings rate will continue to grow as our income grows over time. So this is where we're at right now, and we hope to see that grow. Maybe I'll get a fat raise. Doubt it. But for the last quarter of the year, Shay is going to make a lot of money doing a show. So
Yes.
she's very talented. People pay her to sing, dance, and show other people how to sing and dance.
All of those things, yes.
Okay, so this is also a little complicated, but when I talked through it with Shay yesterday, she understood what I meant.
Yes.
So these are not ongoing progress bars. I know it looks like that because I learned how to do a progress bar in Excel yesterday, and I got excited. But what this is, the annual amount we are contributing versus the max that we're allowed to contribute to these accounts. So if you don't know, the max for Roth IRAs this year is $7,000. The max for a 401k this year is $23,000 if you're a W-2 employee, it's a whole thing. So the amount that we're contributing versus the max, so currently we're 13% of the way to maxing out Shay's Roth IRA. We're like 3% to the way to maxing out my Roth IRA because we don't contribute that much. I'm about 32% of the way to maxing out my 401k. So these are kind of going to be static unless we change the contribution. So this is not like a building throughout the year thing, but just kind of a snapshot of where we're at.
Yeah.
I would really, really like to, as our income increases, I know I want to pay down the student loans, I know that, but I also really want to max out our Roth IRAs because that money is, grows tax-free over time. And that's just, I want to so bad, but we're not there right now. But so these are kind of static. These things I don't expect to see changing much in a month-over-month basis. The savings rate fluctuates somewhat, but we calculate it as like a cumulative throughout the year situation, not like a month-over-month. Maybe we could calculate it in a month-over-month.
I have no idea how to do that or what that means.
It's just the same things that I took in that little snapshot, but just calculating it by the month instead of for the whole year. I'll think about it. No promises. Doing math stresses me out. And one of the YouTubers I follow says you should never do math in public. Our overall FI number, $2.437 million, which sounds wacky and crazy. Currently, we're at $65,114.35 as of yesterday, which the stock market was closed, so it's probably the same. But our current focus is that student loan payoff, and we have just under $130,000 to go, which is crazy. Don't get me wrong. I am aware, but we're working on it.
Big debt, Big Apple.
Big debt in the Big Apple. So we have paid off from the beginning almost 25% of the student loans, which if you consider that we didn't start paying on these until the interest.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah. We paid off $41,000.
Wow.
So we didn't start paying on these. Well, I paid off a little bit here and there before. So when the COVID interest pause happened, we were just saving money into a high yield savings account. And then I made a big payment in August of 2023. And then we have been paying ever since pretty diligently week over week. So yeah, we're at almost 25%. So this will change. We do make payments on student loans literally every week. When my paycheck comes in, we make a payment.
Yep.
It sits in the account for like less than a day. So this will be changing constantly, which is rad. We're checking on this every month. And then we also have the overall journey to FI, which does not take into account the student loan payoff number because financial independence doesn't care. It just is what it is, but it is taking into account how close we are, this number to this number. Right now it's 2.67%, and the ages here will also update as that goes on, because hopefully we're hoping to see these ages come down. So
it's the RE part of FIRE.
Yeah, because that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever a moment in time where we are not going to be doing some kind of outside the house work for money, because we just are who we are. We'd have, Shay does acting professionally. I don't know what I'd be doing, something weird. That's a snapshot of where we're at right now.
And we aspire to continue to do these check-ins on a somewhat regular basis.
I'm thinking monthly.
Yeah.
Like we do a monthly rehash of the month before on all of our spending and all of those things. And I think checking in on these numbers monthly will be fun. I don't expect this to change drastically every month, and this definitely isn't going to change drastically every month. But I think it will be fun because like this is just a snapshot of where we are, a moment in time. Like I said, with the focus on the student loans, this doesn't change super fast.
Yeah.
But this is, and this is part of it. Because as soon as we're done paying $1,200 a month towards the student loans, we can start paying $1,200 a month towards, once we buy a house, we want to focus on paying that mortgage down, and then that eliminates an expense from our budget, So there's a lot to look forward to in the future. There's a lot of work to be done towards our future, and we're going to check in on these every month. So let us know if there's anything else you want to know. Like I said, if you want to learn more about FIRE and all those things, I really recommend Choose FI. It's been a great resource for me. I'm still listening through the entire podcast from start to finish. I just hit 2022. Thanks very much, and we will see you sometime very soon.
Yes.